Risk is generally considered a negative word in the life sciences. However, the positive aspects of this term can help organizations leverage their strengths and take advantage of opportunities in an environment of uncertainty. Think about it. The sense of risk is high when you walk in an unknown city. Conversely, the sense of risk is low when you walk on a familiar street in your town. We're continually making decisions by interpreting risks in our personal lives. The same thing applies professionally in the life sciences. Risk management is key to maintaining profits and bolstering your reputation. As humans, we're called to make risk-based decisions in the workplace on a routine basis. If your perception of risk is incorrect risk responses will follow, which will turn into organizational disasters. This is where risk management comes in. Risk management is an indispensable compliance tool in the life sciences. It is compulsory, though it is often a paper exercise. This short course is an introduction to risk management concepts. We will discuss some methods and tools for customizing risk management and for making this management process more effective and efficient. Complex concepts will be explained in simple terms for beginners, though the material is designed for people of all skill levels. According to ISO 9001:2015 and ISO 3100:2018 risk management, risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. In other words, risk is any effect resulting from any cause which leads to a nonconformity or deviation from expectations. The effect of not meeting objectives is the consequence of risk, positive or negative. For example, a bad establishment of pH range, risk, in an in-process control leads to non-compliance, or the pH being out of specifications. This is a negative risk. Risks are not always negative, they can also be positive. For example, when you don't comply with a specified pH value in process control during the manufacturing process, but the outcome is a compliant substance and an improved yield, this is a positive effect. In other industries, like in the medical device field, risk has a negative connotation. ISO 13485:2016 Quality Management Systems for Medical Devices and ISO 14971:2019 have some differences from ISO 3100:2018 Risk Management. However, ISO 9001:2015 is well aligned with the definition of ISO 3100:2018 and uses the word opportunity for upside risk. Accordingly, risk management is the management of potential negative and positive results through the assessment and evaluation of threats and opportunities. Managing positive or negative events is the same thing as managing uncertainty. Science-based uncertainty management is indeed the cornerstone of risk management. Uncertainty is a situation where something is unknown. In the quality space, uncertainty is the state of deficiency of understanding or knowledge of an event. The consequence of uncertainty is likelihood. These three terms are used in ISO 14971:2019, Application of Risk Management to Medical Devices. A hazard is a potential source of harm. It is anything that can result in any sort of harm. Let's illustrate these words with three examples. A road that is icy and slippery is a hazard. Handling toxic reagents without safety glasses is a hazard. The use of a medical device is a hazard. The risk of a car slipping on ice decreases by driving slowly while using snow tires or chains. This is because there is a lower probability of slipping and less damage when you go in the ditch at a slower speed. The risk of liquid reagents splashing your eyes decreases by wearing safety glasses. This is because there is a lower probability of splash injuries when the eyes are well protected. A medical device that is inadequately contaminated after use may cause infection through the transmission of microorganisms to any person who subsequently comes into contact with it. Patients, nursing staff, and service personnel are potentially at risk. This risk, however, is reduced if the device is cleaned adequately after use and again before next use. Then, there will be a lower likelihood of infection or damage. A hazardous situation is a set of circumstances under which people, property, and/or the environment are exposed to one or more hazards. Harm is a personal injury or damage to people's health, environmental damage, property damage, or operational degradation. According to ISO 9001:2015, risk-based thinking enables organizations to determine the factors that could cause its processes and quality management system to deviate from the planned results. In other words, it is preventive thinking. This evaluation helps to implement preventive controls that minimize negative effects and maximize the use of opportunities. In other words, risk-based thinking is a philosophy that encourages organizations to proactively identify risks and prevent non-conformities before they occur by planning actions in a holistic way and not as a standalone process. However, in risk-based thinking, the probability of an uncertain event is unknown. Probability is the likelihood that something happens or is true. In mathematics, probability is represented by a number that indicates how likely a particular event is to happen. It is an objective level of certainty. What is probability used for? It is generally used in risk-based thinking. For example, on a qualitative scale, probability may range from very certain to extremely likely. Other scales may include low, medium, and high. The essence of risk-based thinking is to foresee threats and opportunities and assign them a level of probability so that you can build controls and apply modifications into the design and oversight of systems. Now that we have discussed the meaning of risk, uncertainty, and probability, let's explore the meaning of consequence. Consequence is a result or effect of an action or condition that can affect your objectives. The result or consequence can also be referred to as impact or severity. This means that consequence is the measurement of the impact of an action or condition. We will call it severity from here forward in this course. Negative risk proportionally increases based on the severity of an adverse event. This is because severity is the consequence of the risky event. Consider the example of a slippery street. Risk-based thinking involves foreseeing the severity and probability of the consequence. Decision-making is the process of making choices by identifying a decision, gathering information, and assessing alternative solutions. An effective decision-making process consists of 12 steps that will help increase the chances of choosing the best alternative. This risk decision process results in the exploitation of opportunities and the mitigation of threats. 1. Define the decision. 2. Understand the system. 3. Identify critical parameters for success. 4. Anticipate failures and challenge biases and assumptions. 5. Evaluate the probability and impact of decision failures. 6. Evaluate the impact of decision success. 7. Identify preventive approaches to maximize decision success. 8. Choose among the alternative options. 9. Consult with the affected stakeholders. 10. Implement the decision. 11. Monitor the decision outcome. And 12. Control the expected risks and identify emergent risks. This method relies on the formulation of making a decision first and then assessing its impact and acceptability. Risks affect life sciences organizations in multiple ways. There are different areas of opportunities where organizations can mitigate potential risks: process, materials, facilities, environmental, financial, commercial, distribution, technological, social, cultural, and so on. Organizations can protect patients by managing risks through the quality management system, QMS, and manufacturing processes. Risks are present in every process. As such, it is the organization's responsibility to control risks and mitigate them as much as possible throughout the product lifecycle. 3 pillars of risk strategy: enterprise risk management, operational risk management, product, process, and service level risk management. Enterprise risk management centralizes the management of threats and opportunities throughout the organization. The actions are cascaded strategically from top to bottom to ensure safety. For example, risks related to hazards with financial or insurance coverage, like fires and earthquakes. These are serious risks that can cause loss. We will not focus on this topic in this course, however. Operational risk management controls the risks in the operational or functional units of an organization to achieve the expected operational outputs and objectives. These operational goals are cascades from the strategic goals. Product, process, and service level risk management involve the day-to-day, ground-level risks of specific tasks and deliverables to the customers. There are 4 main objectives. Assess the risk of the organization's objectives and guide a plan to achieve them. Prevent undesired outcomes. Work toward continuous improvement and add value. In a previous course, we discussed the PDCA cycle. This is a dynamic, cyclic approach to improvement, a 4-step iterative approach to solving problems and improving processes. ISO 9001:2015 employs the PCDA cycle in risk-based thinking. The idea is that the outcomes of this cycle are preventive. It combines planning, implementing, controlling, and taking actions for continuous improvement. In the scope of a QMS, the first phase is quality planning. This corresponds to plan. It includes the activities and methods needed to ensure quality is planned, using preventive strategies and clear operational actions. For example, imagine you work in an active pharmaceutical ingredients company as a QA representative. A new process for manufacturing a drug substance has been developed in R&D, and you are evaluating the transfer documentation to the production site. Quality by design has been used to ensure the quality of the substance by employing statistical and analytical data in the design. Can you anticipate any hazards and establish a mitigation plan? What are the expected outcomes? You should know what the CQAs, the critical quality attributes, are. CQAs are physical, chemical, biological, or microbiological properties that should be within an appropriate limit, range, or distribution to ensure the desired product quality. For example, let's continue with our previous example. From the information received in the transfer package, the pH is critical when it comes to guaranteeing good quality. The pH of the drug substance is a CQA. It should be between 5 and 7 at the final substance. This means the pH should be controlled between 5.2 and 6.8 during the most critical step of the manufacturing process. Say you plan to execute a pilot trial of 3 batches at a small size, 10 kilograms, at a scale corresponding to 10% of the real batch size, 100 kilograms. After the evaluation, you equip the reactor with a pH meter to monitor the pH value during production at the critical step. This corresponds to a mitigation action. The second phase is quality assurance. This corresponds to do. It is the outcome of the plan. In this phase, design thinking is applied to anticipate and mitigate potential hazards. For example, the manufacturing process is done 3 times, resulting in 3 batches. During the production of the first batch of the active substance, an in-process control test is included in the batch record of the most critical step of the manufacturing process. The third phase is quality control. This corresponds to check. In this phase, the focus is on using strategies to detect the problems arising from risks. The question is whether the design-based mitigations worked after monitoring the results. For example, the pH value during production was adjusted to 4.8, accepted range 5.2 to 6.8. However, quality control tests the pH value in the drug substance and it is out of specifications. 4.9 is the result, whereas the acceptance criteria is 5.0 to 7.0. The fourth and final phase is quality improvement. This corresponds to act. In this phase, the discovered nonconformities are analyzed to apply a systematic process for improving performance with the goal of achieving the intended objectives. For example, all available data for parameters measured during production, for example, temperature, pH, or time, are analyzed and compared to data obtained in the design space from R&D. Quality reviews can also be used in other scenarios to analyze any nonconformities, deviations, events, recalls, out-of-specification results, and so on, related to a product or process to evaluate trends over a period of time, for example, 1 year, and apply actions for mitigating the risks, such as kappa actions. You decide to implement the learnings from the risks, narrowing the allowed pH range during the pH adjustment to 5.4 to 6.8 instead of 5.2 to 6.8. Quality risk management is a systematic process for the assessment, control, communication and review of risks to the quality of a product or the service. It is the sum of risk assessment, risk control, and risk review. The risk assessment consists of the identification of hazards and the analysis and evaluation of the risks associated with exposure to those hazards. How can we start the assessment? The assessment begins with a well-defined description of the risk that leads to a problem. How to define the risk? You can use 3 fundamental questions. 1. What might go wrong? Risk identification. 2. What is the likelihood or probability it will go wrong? And 3. What are the consequences or severity? Consider the following example. We will now discuss the process of risk assessment. Consider the following simple structured way for assigning qualitative risk levels to individual events. Remember that an event is something that occurs and potentially changes a specific set of circumstances. An event may have several causes and may or may not have consequences. For every event, you can identify 1 or more risks. How can we measure the potential consequences of an event in a practical way? Risk identification is the first step of the risk management process. It is the process of finding, describing, and recording risks. Risk identification is a systematic process where we use information to identify hazards, referring to the risk question or problem description. It involves the identification of risk sources, their causes, and their potential consequences by determining the level of risk. The first question is, what might go wrong? Risk analysis is the second phase of the risk management process. It is the process of comprehending the nature of risk and determining the level of risk. Here, you estimate the risk associated with the identified hazards. This is the qualitative or quantitative process of linking the likelihood of occurrence and the severity of harm. It is important to understand that an event can lead to one or more consequences. Each consequence can be evaluated based on severity and probability. For example, event: car skids on icy road. Risk: unable to control the car, accident ensues. Consequence: cannot get to work. Probability: medium. Severity: significant. Risk level: reduced risk. We already know the definition of risk as the effect of uncertainty on objectives. And now, let's discuss a new definition of risk based on the combination of probability of harm and the severity of that harm. This value will help you to prioritize the type of risk, qualitatively or quantitatively. When you combine the probability of a risk with the risk severity, you find out the real risk of harm, or the risk level. Based on this prioritization, you can now identify the items with the highest risk levels in a scientific way. The risk scoring gives a clear number that you can compare against your color-coded matrix for the severity or probability table. The last column of the table is the risk evaluation. This is the third phase of the risk management process. It compares the results of risk analysis with the given risk criteria to determine an assigned level of acceptability. This value will help you prioritize additional actions to modify or maintain the risk. The output of a risk assessment is either a quantitative estimate of risk or a qualitative description of a risk range. In quantitative estimation, a numerical probability is used. In qualitative estimation, qualitative descriptors such as high, medium, or low are used. Sometimes a risk score is used to further define descriptors in the risk ranking. It is important to highlight that this process can be improved with the addition of another variable, the probability of detection or the detectability of hazards. Therefore, once you determine the risk, either quantitatively or qualitatively, the risk control phase is used to reduce the risk to an acceptable level. This is also known as risk acceptance. You need to take actions that reduce the probability or the severity of harm. This is called risk reduction. Processes that improve the detectability of hazards and quality risks might also be used. The risk acceptance is a residual level where risk is accepted and there is no need to reduce it further. There are some types of harms, however, that cannot be eliminated to zero. Note that sometimes the implementation of risk reduction measures can introduce new risks into the system or increase the significance of other existing risks. It is important to revisit the risk assessment on a periodic basis to identify and evaluate any possible changes in risk, particularly after implementing a risk reduction process. Although you have a system in place to reduce risks to an acceptable residual level, risk management is a continuous process. There should be a process to periodically monitor and review the results of events. Product reviews, audits, inspections, change controls, deviations, and kappas. There are two approaches to evaluate risk management. In the first approach, you can take a traditional path based on trends and observations of events such as deviations, complaints, and so on. The second approach uses risk management tools. Some of these tools include FMEA, Failure Mode and Effect Analysis, FMECA, Failure Mode, Effect and Criticality Analysis, HACCEP, Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points, FTA, Fault Tree Analysis, Hazard Operability Analysis, HAZOP, Preliminary Hazard Analysis, PHA. We will discuss these tools in more detail in another course. We have reached the end of this course. Now let's review some important risk management principles. Risk management is proactive. Risk processes can be customized to be effective and efficient if you use a proactive way of thinking that embeds a preventive risk-based approach in all activities. Flexibility and adaptability are key to anticipating risks. Proactivity prevents many failures and disasters due to poor understanding of the organizational context. Risk management is holistic. A traditional QMS focuses on the product, service, or process where risk management is concerned. However, there are other sub-levels where people are making decisions that can also impact risk. This means that in smart quality organizations, risk management should be applied at all levels. Risk management is part of continuous improvement and change management. Risk management practices are a real opportunity for improving all processes through learning and experience. Although these practices should be used during the development phase or initial design of a product, changes emerge from monitoring metrics, non-conformities, or improving initiatives. The identification, analysis, and evaluation of upcoming risks can be addressed with timely corrective plans and changes. Risk management leads to greater efficiency and higher profits. Risks that are managed in a structured way within a well-known context lead to a good risk-intelligent decision-making process. This is one of the pillars of smart quality management systems in mature organizations. Risk management is difficult. Risk management is not a plug-and-play process. This is because risks affect the whole organization and not only in a siloed department. It is important to understand that all people involved in the risk management process need to have the minimum skills, knowledge, and abilities to contribute to risk assessments. Risk management should be harmonized with data analysis. When making final decisions, organizations will have a higher probability of success when they consider all the available information. Now, in the age of digitization, smart quality environments have access to accurate data and analytical tools to get predictive risk-based decision-making processes. It's hard to make changes. It's difficult to make changes in your own life, but if you don't change, you don't grow. And if you confront the risks of change, you won't experience the benefit of advancement. That's all. Thank you for attending this course. I hope you find it useful and that you have learned what you expected. See you in other courses at Scilife Academy to continue your learning journey.